their small bodies trembling as we crouched in the rotting warehouse, its rusted beams groaning under the weight of our fear. Alara, a 7-year-old wraith with eyes like my twins, worked at the ropes binding us. Her fingers, calloused from a life I couldn't yet fathom, moved with street-honed precision, freeing Mia first, then Chloe. "Hurry," she whispered, her voice a threat of courage. Footsteps echoed our captors, faceless men hired by a shadow I'd soon name. My heart thundered, a primal drum urging flight. Alara's gaze met mine, fierce, unbroken. And I nodded. We bolted, splintered crates and oil-slicked floors blurring past. Sirens wailed, cutting the dark, Special Agent Ramirez and the FBI, their flashlights slicing through the mist. "Thorne." "This way," Ramirez shouted. We dove behind a stack of pallets, the girls' breaths ragged. A gunshot cracked, grazing my shoulder, pain flaring like a struck match. Alara pulled Chloe down. A billionaire who built Thorne Enterprises from grit and loss. Widowed at 35, I raised Chloe and Mia alone after Eleanor's death, her absence a wound that never scarred. The world saw me as iron. Boardrooms bent to my will. Seattle's skyline bore my name. But at home, I was fragile, tucking my girls in, reading stories to drown my grief. I hid my cracks, fearing they'd see their father falter. Alara's face, identical to Chloe and Mia's, shattered that facade. Found at a rest stop off I-90, 50 miles east of Seattle, she spoke of Grandma Rose. Her protector, now dead. Her story stirred a tide I couldn't stem, a father's instinct, a need to shield her. My wealth meant nothing against the void Eleanor left, but for my girls, I'd fight any storm, even one I didn't yet understand. The public's gaze, harsh and doubting, followed us, but I stood firm, a man defined not by power, but by the love that anchored me to Chloe, Mia. And now, perhaps, Alara, under the weight of truths yet to unfold. Eleanor's funeral haunts me, a memory sharp as Puget Sound's winter winds. Victor, my brother, stood over her casket, his silver hair glinting under the chapel chandelier. "You're too weak to raise them, Alex," he sneered, rose cologne and cigar smoke trailing him. I brushed it off, blaming his greed for Thorne Enterprises. But Alara's words at that rest stopped. Her fear of a silver-haired man resurrected his voice, his scent. Grandma Rose's death, she said, wasn't natural. Victor's shadow loomed, a splinter in my mind. That night, under cedar trees swaying outside my window, I felt the weight of a secret, its roots deep in Eleanor's grave. Whispering of a betrayal I'd uncover, no matter the cost. If you sensed such treachery, would you chase it? The evergreens stood sentinel, their whispers urging courage. Alara's story, her trembling trust, was a clue I couldn't ignore, a father's vow to protect his own. Even as the past's ghosts, Victor's words, Eleanor's loss, clawed at me, demanding truth under dawn's faint light. The rest stop off I-90, 50 miles east of Seattle, was a bleak smear of neon and asphalt, rain drumming on my SUV's roof. Alara curled under a sodden blanket. Her face, Chloe and Mia's face, pale under flickering lights. "She's ours, Dad," my girls whispered, their trust a lifeline. I offered Alara a sandwich, my voice soft, but the world's eyes were hard. Trucker sneered, muttering, "Thorne's lost his edge, chasing strays." Neighbors in our Mercer Island enclave whispered, "Another publicity stunt?" My board at Thorne Enterprises, led by Victor, called emergency meetings, questioning my sanity. "You're distracted, Alex," they said, their voices cold as Puget Sound's depths. I was a billionaire, yet their scorn stripped me bare. A father clinging to 3 girls in a storm of doubt. Alara's presence, her trembling hand in mine, felt right. But the world saw folly. At home, I tucked her in beside Chloe and Mia, their giggles a fragile shield. Yet, alone, under the cedar tree's sigh, I felt the weight of isolation, not just theirs, but mine, a man who'd buried his heart with Eleanor. Now judged for daring to hope. Victor's betrayal struck at our family estate, his silver hair aglow in the study's firelight. "You're a fool, Alex," he spat, cigar smoke curling like a noose. "That girl's a leech, and you're too broken to see it." He'd managed Eleanor's trusts, knew her secrets, yet called Alara a scam. His words echoed the boards, a calculated strike. He froze my accounts, citing instability, his rose cologne a bitter sting. My own brother, turning family into a blade. I stood, fists clenched, as he smirked, leaving me to question trust itself. If blood could wound so deeply, what was left? The girl slept upstairs, unaware, but his shadow loomed, a threat I couldn't ignore, rooted in secrets I'd yet to unearth. If you faced such treachery, would you recoil? The evergreens outside groaned, their roots urging defiance, as I steeled myself, a father not yet broken, ready to fight for the truth. Alera's presence had begun to unravel. I refused to bend. Under the moon's pale glow, Puget Sound's waves crashing below, I dialed Dr. Evelyn Reed. I need a DNA test, Evelyn, I said, voice firm, heart racing. Alera's face, identical to my twins, demanded answers. I hired Detective Marcus Cole, his gruff voice promising to trace Grandma Rose's death and the silver-haired man. It was a spark. My first stand against Victor's lies. I watched my girls sleep, their hands entwined, and felt the earth shift beneath me. No more silence. I'd fight for them. Chloe, Mia, Alera, my daughters, my truth. My defiance against a world that sought to break us. If you stood for your own, would you falter? The cedars whispered courage, their scent grounding me. Social media buzzed. Whispers of my folly spreading, but I cared only for the truth. A father's vow etched in the night, under Puget Sound's relentless tide, to protect what was mine, no matter the cost. Fear coiled in my chest like fog rolling off Puget Sound, heavy and cold, as I sat in my Mercer Island study, the cedar walls closing in. Alera's nightmares woke me nightly, her cries piercing. Naming the silver-haired man who haunted her. Victor's shadow loomed, his rose cologne and cigar smoke a ghost in her stories. What if he came for her, for Chloe, for Mia? My wealth, once a fortress, felt like sand slipping through my fingers. Thorne Enterprises teetered, Victor's allies on the board whispered of ousting me, calling me unhinged for sheltering Alera. I saw Eleanor's face in my dreams, her voice faint. Protect them, Alex. Losing her had broken me. Losing my girls would end me. I clutched their photo, taken on a rare sunny Seattle day. Their laughter now a fading echo. Detective Cole's reports were sparse. Grandma Rose's death suspicious, but no proof. Dr. Reed's DNA test was days away. Each tick of the clock felt like a countdown. Outside, rain lashed the evergreens, mirroring my dread. I was a father, not a warrior, yet the world demanded I fight. If Victor could erase Alera's existence, what else had he stolen? My heart raced, not just for my girls, but for the man I'd been, steady, certain, now unraveling in this storm of doubt. Victor's threats turned public, a blade bared in daylight. At a Thorne Enterprises gala in downtown Seattle, 10 miles from home, he took the stage, his silver hair gleaming under chandeliers. Alex's obsession with this urchin endangers us all, he declared. Voice smooth as venom. Guests, colleagues, investors, gasped, their eyes pinning me like a criminal. He leaked lies to the press. Thorne's losing grip, chasing conspiracies. My phone buzzed with headlines from the Seattle Times, each word a lash. Victor's allies cornered me, demanding I abandon Alera or lose everything. You're a liability, one hissed. His breath sharp with whiskey. I stood, exposed, the ballroom's opulence mocking my isolation. Victor's rose-scented presence lingered as he smirked from across the room, daring me to crumble. If you faced such betrayal, would you shrink or stand? I wanted to flee, to shield my girls from this circus, but his public assault, 5,000 followers on social media amplifying his lies, trapped me. The city I'd shaped now judged me, its skyline a silent witness to my fall. A spark flared in me, faint as dawn over the Cascades. Dr. Reed called at midnight, her voice steady. Alera is your daughter, Alex, triplets with Chloe and Mia. The records were falsified. I stood on my balcony, 100 feet above Puget Sound, the wind carrying her words like a lifeline. They were mine. All three, bound by blood Victor tried to erase. Eleanor's love, her strength, pulsed in them, in me. I wasn't just a grieving widower. I was their father, and I'd fight. Cole's next report hinted at Victor's ties to a shady clinic, a thread to pull. I gripped the railing, salt air filling my lungs, and vowed to uncover his sins. My girls slept inside. Their faces serene. For them, I'd faced the abyss, a man reborn in purpose, no longer just surviving, but rising to reclaim our truth. If you found such proof, would you press on? The evergreens stood firm, their scent my resolve. As I stepped forward, A father ready to shatter Victor's lies under Puget sounds relentless. Dawn. The truth beckoned like a faint star over the Olympic mountains, urging me to chase it despite the dark. Dr. Reed's call. Alara was mine, her birth hidden, lit a fire in me. I sat in my Mercer Island study, 10 miles from Seattle's glow, sifting through Eleanor's old files. Her handwriting, elegant loops on faded paper, stirred memories of her laughter. Why was Alara erased? I called Sarah Jenkins, a lawyer who'd known Eleanor, meeting her at a quiet cafe off Pioneer Square. She unearthed a second will, buried in county records, directing millions to a vague charity haven fund. The signature was Eleanor's, but jagged, unnatural, forged. My pulse quickened. Victor had overseen her estate. His rose-scented presence clung to this lie. Detective Cole, chain-smoking in a Tacoma diner 30 miles south, shared whispers of Victor's ties to a clinic that faked records. Was this where Alara's birth was hidden? I drove home, rain-slicked roads mirroring my resolve. Puget Sound's waves crashed below, urging me forward. Alara's nightmares, Victor's cigar smoke. Grandma Rose's cries about Eleanor weren't just dreams, they were clues. I wasn't just a grieving father, I was a hunter, tracking a predator in my own bloodline. If Victor could rewrite my daughter's existence, what else had he stolen from us? The cedar trees outside swayed, whispering courage, as I vowed to unravel his web for my girls, for Eleanor. Victor's warning came sharp as a blade. A package arrived at my doorstep, no return address, containing a photo of Alara at the rest stop, her face circled in red ink. A note in Victor's scrawl read, "Stop digging, Alex, or she's gone." My hands shook, the paper crumpling under my grip. At Thorne Enterprises' office, 12 miles away in downtown Seattle, Cole called. Breathless. He'd broken into Victor's private office, finding ledgers linking the Haven Fund to offshore accounts, but tripped an alarm, barely escaping security. Victor knew we were close. His social media, now 10,000 followers strong, posted veiled threats. Some chased ghosts, risking all. My board, swayed by him, scheduled a vote to oust me. If you faced such menace, would you retreat? I stood on my balcony, 100 feet above the sound, the wind biting. Victor's rose cologne seemed to linger, a taunt. Alara slept inside, her small form beside Chloe and Mia. His threat wasn't just to me, it was to her, to us. The evergreens groaned, urging defiance. I wouldn't stop, not when the truth was so near, a fragile light in this storm. I declared war on Victor's lies. In my study, under the soft glow of a single lamp, I wrote to Sarah, file a motion to contest the will. It's fraud. To Cole, I texted, find that clinic's records. No matter the cost. I wasn't just reacting. I was striking. The girls' laughter drifted from upstairs, a melody of hope. I'd expose Victor, not for revenge, but for them, Chloe, Mia, Alara. My laptop hummed, emails sent, plans set. Outside, dawn broke over Puget Sound, gulls crying as light pierced the fog. If I faltered, Victor would bury us. But I saw Eleanor and my girls. Her strength in their eyes. This wasn't just a fight, it was a vow. I'd tear down his empire of deceit, brick by brick, for my daughter's future. If you stood here, would you dare the same? The world might break me, but I'd rise, a father forged anew, ready to claim our truth under the Cascades' unyielding watch, with Puget Sound's tides as my witness. I couldn't wait for shadows to clear. Dr. Lena Sharma, the doctor who delivered my girls, held answers. Her name surfaced in Cole's report, linked to Victor's clinic 20 miles south in Tacoma. I drove through dawn's mist, the Cascades looming like silent judges. Her office, a sterile box off Pacific Avenue, felt like a battlefield. My heart pounded. But Eleanor's memory, her smile under Seattle's rare sun, pushed me forward. Dr. Sharma, I said, voice steady. Tell me about Alara's birth. Her eyes, lined with guilt, flickered. She hesitated, then spoke. Victor paid her to erase Alara's record, claiming it was for family stability. My fists clenched. Stability meant his greed. She'd seen Eleanor's distress, her questions about a third child, but stayed silent. I leaned in, 10 feet from her desk, the air thick with betrayal. And Eleanor's death. I pressed. Sharma's voice broke. Victor forced pills on her, staging an overdose. I recorded every word, my phone hidden. Outside, gulls wheeled over Puget Sound, their cries echoing my rage. This was no longer just suspicion, it was war. I left, her confession a fragile torch in the dark, but Victor's shadow loomed larger. For Chloe, Mia, Alara, I'd crossed a line, no turning back. If you stood where I did, would you dare confront such truth, knowing it could burn everything? Sharma's confession was a victory, but Victor struck back. Hours later, my phone buzzed, a video from an unknown number, showing Chloe and Mia at school, 8 miles away in Bellevue, captioned, "Back off, Alex." My blood ran cold. At Thorne Enterprises, 12 miles from home. The board, swayed by Victor, slashed my authority, citing erratic behavior. Cole called. His Tacoma contact vanished, likely scared off. Sarah Jenkins warned the Wills challenge faced delays. Victor's lawyers buried us in motions. Social media, now 15,000 followers strong, churned with lies, Thorne's unhinged, endangering kids. If you faced this, would you crumble? I stood in my study, rain lashing the windows, evergreens swaying like mourners. Alara's drawing, 3 girls under a sun, sat on my desk, a beacon. Sharma's words proved Victor's crimes, but his threats tightened the noose. I hid the girls' school schedules, hired security, my wealth a dwindling shield. Puget Sound's waves roared below, urging resilience. Each obstacle carved me sharper, a father forged in fire, but the cost, my girls' safety, gnawed at me, a wound only truth could heal under dawn's faint promise. I wouldn't break. In my Mercer Island home, under cedar beams, I replayed Sharma's recording, her voice a lifeline. I emailed Sarah, push the bull case, no matter the block. To Cole, find the clinic's owner. My girls slept, their breaths soft, Alara's hand clutching Mia's. I wasn't the man who'd buried Eleanor, passive in grief. Victor's threats, his lies, only steeled me. Outside, dawn painted the sound gold, a promise of light. I'd shield my daughters, expose Victor, rebuild our name. If I fell, I'd rise for them, Chloe, Mia, Alara. This was my oath, etched in my bones. I looked at Alara's drawing, its crude sun blazing, and felt Eleanor's strength in me. No more retreat. I'd fight, a father reborn, for truth, for love, for a future untainted by Victor's shadow. If you stood in my place, would you press on? The Cascades stood sentinel, their peaks my resolve. As I moved forward, Puget Sound's tides my rhythm, a man unbroken. Ready to claim justice under dawn's unyielding light. The Havens Gala, held in a glittering ballroom 15 miles from my Mercer Island home, was a facade of charity masking Victor's sins. I stepped inside, Seattle's elite swirling under chandeliers, their murmurs sharp as the November wind off Puget Sound. Cole's tip had led me here. The Haven, funded by the Forge Will, was Victor's front. I clutched Sharma's recorded confession, my phone a hidden blade. Victor, silver hair gleaming, toasted the crowd, his rose cologne wafting. For the children, he lied. Eyes locking on mine. My heart raced. This was my moment. I signaled Sarah Jenkins, stationed near the stage, to ready our move. Guests whispered, "Thorne's here to make a scene." They weren't wrong. I pushed through, past servers in silk dresses, to a microphone stand. "I have something to say," I declared, voice cutting through the clink of glasses. Faces turned, 500 pairs of eyes pinning me. Victor's smirk faltered. I spoke of Alara, my daughter erased, and the Haven's truth. Children neglected, funds siphoned. Gasps rippled, phones lit up, live streaming my words to thousands. Outside, evergreens stood sentinel, their shadows urging courage. If you stood here, would you speak, knowing the world watched? I was no longer just a father. I was a voice for the forgotten. My girls' faces, Chloe, Mia, Alara, fueling me. The ballroom quaked, truth breaking through Victor's gilded lies. I played Sharma's recording, her voice echoing. Victor paid me to hide Alara. Killed Eleanor with an overdose. The crowd froze, Victor's face ashen. I projected Cole's photos from the Haven, emaciated children, Lily and Ethan among them, locked in barren rooms. "This is Victor's charity," I said, my voice steel. Sarah handed out documents, ledgers linking Victor to offshore accounts, the Forged Will's charity fund. Whispers turned to shouts. "Is it true?" Victor lunged for the stage, but security, tipped by Cole, blocked him. His rose-scented facade crumbled, cigar smoke's ghost lingering in his wake. Social media exploded, 20,000 retweets in minutes. Hashtags like hashtag Thorne Truth trending. I stood tall, Puget Sound's distant roar in my ears, Eleanor's strength in my veins. If you saw such evil unmasked, would you cheer or turn away? I'd exposed Victor, not for revenge, but for Lily, Ethan, my girls, every child he'd betrayed. The truth, like dawn over the Cascades, burned bright, and I wasn't done. Victor's empire was cracking, and I'd wield the hammer to shatter it under the weight of justice for all to see. The crowd shifted, I softening. A woman, tears streaking, approached. I worked at the Haven. It's true. Others nodded, sharing stories of Victor's pressure, their fear. Phones pinged, local news, 10 miles away, broke the story. Thorne exposes charity fraud. My board members, once Victor's puppets, whispered apologies, their doubt fading. Strangers clasped my hand, saying, "You gave them a voice." The Seattle Times reporter lived tweeting. Called me a hero. I didn't want heroics, I wanted justice. Outside, rain fell, cleansing, as cedar trees swayed in approval. If you felt this tide turn, would you trust it? My girls waited at home. Alera's drawing of 3 girls under a sun my anchor. The world saw me anew, not a broken widower, but a father who fought. Social media swelled, 30,000 followers now, sharing Lily and Ethan's faces. I stood, heart full, knowing this was just the start. Victor's shadow lingered, but the light of truth, like Puget Sound's endless waves, was unstoppable, carrying us toward a dawn where justice would bloom, unyielding, for all the children I'd sworn to protect. The Haven Gala's triumph faded as doubt sank its claws into me. Back in my Mercer Island study, 15 miles from Seattle's clamor, Malcolm Croft's lies flooded the airwaves. Thorne kidnapped children, he claimed, his face plastered on every news channel. 20 miles away in downtown studios, the Seattle Times ran headlines, Billionaire's crusade or crime? My board, now Victor's puppets, voted to strip my CEO title. Thorne Enterprises slipping from my grasp. Social media, 40,000 followers strong, branded me a villain. Had I gone too far? Alera's face, Chloe and Mia's mirror, haunted me. Was I saving her or damning us all? I stood by my window, Puget Sound's waves a restless murmur, rain streaking like tears. Eleanor's death, Victor's betrayal, I'd fought for truth. But what if I'd only built a cage for my girls? Lily and Ethan, rescued from the Haven, were safe, but the world saw me as their captor. My wealth, once a shield, was dust. I doubted not just my choices, but my core father, protector, man. If you stood in this storm, would you trust your own heart? The cedar trees outside bent low, their whispers questioning. I'd exposed Victor, but at what cost? My girls slept, unaware, yet I feared I'd failed them, a shadow of the father they deserved. My deepest fear surfaced, raw as winter whined off the Cascades. Alone, I paced, Eleanor's photo on my desk, her eyes accusing. You let me die. Had I missed her cries, just as I might miss my girls now? Victor's threats, the video of Chloe and Mia, replayed in my mind. What if I lost them, 8 miles away at their Bellevue school? I saw Alera's nightmares, her trembling voice naming Victor, and feared I'd brought him closer. My failure wasn't just legal or public, it was personal. I'd vowed to shield them, yet danger loomed, 100 feet below my balcony, in Puget Sound's dark depths. If no one believed me, did I even matter? My childhood flashed, Victor's taunts, "You're weak," Alex, echoing now. If you faced such terror, would you shrink? I clutched Eleanor's photo, tears falling. Fearing I was no father, just a man chasing ghosts, doomed to lose what mattered most. The evergreens groaned, mirroring my despair, as I questioned my right to fight. A man unraveling under the weight of his own heart's trembling. Then, Chloe and Mia ran in, holding Eleanor's diary, found in our attic. Mom knew about Alera, Chloe whispered, showing pages 10 feet from my desk. Eleanor's words, inked in pain, spoke of Victor's secret and her fear. I can't tell Alex yet, she wrote. My heart steadied. This wasn't just my fight. It was hers. I wasn't perfect, but I was their father, flawed yet fierce. Outside, dawn crept over Puget Sound, gulls soaring. I didn't need the world's approval, only my girl's trust. Victor could take my title, my name, but not my purpose. If you found such truth, would you rise? I held the diary, Eleanor's love alive in its pages, and vowed to fight on, not for glory, but for Chloe, Mia, Alera, for the man I was becoming, forged in this crucible of doubt. The Cascades stood firm, their peaks my resolve. As I stepped forward, Puget Sound's tides my rhythm. A father reborn, ready to reclaim our truth under dawn's unyielding light. The world split like a cracked cedar under Puget Sound's gray dawn. In my Mercer Island home, 15 miles from Seattle's media frenzy, I watched the storm unfold. Half the city hailed me, posts with hashtag #ThorneTruth hit 50,000 shares, praising my stand for the Haven's children. A barista at a cafe 5 miles away in Bellevue slipped me a note. You saved my cousin at the Haven. But others, swayed by Malcolm Croft's lies, vilified me. Thorne's a kidnapper, screamed headlines. Broadcast from studios 20 miles west. Online, 60,000 followers echoed Victor's smears. He's unhinged, endangering kids. Neighbors shunned us, their whispers sharp as November rain. At Chloe and Mia's school, 8 miles east, parents demanded their removal, fearing my instability. I stood on my balcony, 100 feet above the sound, waves crashing like public opinion, half cheering, half condemning. If you faced such division, would you trust the crowd? Alara's drawing, 3 girls under a sun, sat on my desk, a reminder of why I fought. But doubt lingered. Had I turned my girls into targets? The evergreens outside swayed, their roots deep, urging me to hold fast. Seattle's skyline, my legacy, loomed distant. Now a battleground where truth wrestled lies, and I stood at its center, a father both hero and pariah. Victor's counterattack was merciless. At a preliminary hearing in a Seattle courthouse, 12 miles from home, he unleashed his arsenal. His lawyers, sharp as hawks, presented forged documents claiming I'd bribed Sharma. Alex fabricated this conspiracy, Victor testified. His silver hair glinting, rose cologne tainting the air. He leaked doctored emails to the press, alleging I'd planned the Haven raid for publicity. Social media, now 70,000 followers, churned. Thorne's a fraud. My board, under Victor's control, froze my remaining assets, citing fiduciary risk. A new threat arrived. A letter warning of a custody challenge for Alara, Chloe, and Mia. If you saw your family targeted, would you falter? Sarah Jenkins fought back, but Victor's team buried us in motions. Cole's leads dried up, his Tacoma contact silenced. I sat in court, rain lashing windows, cedar beams of justice creaking. Victor's smirk, 20 feet away, mocked me. He'd turned my truth into a weapon, his cigar smoke's ghost lingering. Puget Sound's tides, far below, roared defiance, but his assault was a vice, squeezing my hope, my name, my girl's future. I was cornered, a lone pine against a gale. The judge granted temporary custody. Thanks to Alara's brave testimony, her small voice naming Victor's scent, but warned of further scrutiny. My reputation bled. Thorne Enterprises was his. Friends distanced themselves, 10 miles away, fearing Victor's reach. At home, I hid my fear, tucking Chloe, Mia, and Alara in, their trust my only anchor. If you lost everything, would you surrender? My accounts dwindled, legal fees soaring. Social media raged, 80,000 posts now, half lies. I stood in my study, Eleanor's diary open, her words, protect them, a fading light. Outside, Puget Sound's waves whispered resilience. But I felt like driftwood, battered, directionless. Victor's shadow loomed, 100 feet below, threatening to swallow us. Yet, my girl's laughter, soft as dawn, held me. I wasn't beaten, not while they breathed, not while truth lived. I'd fight, a father carved by loss, for one more dawn, under the Cascades' unyielding watch. With Puget Sound's tides as my unbroken rhythm, I stood on my Mercer Island balcony, 15 miles from Seattle's restless heart, Puget Sound's waves whispering courage under a fading moon. The world's scorn had left me raw, but then Dr. Lena Sharma called, her voice trembling yet firm, 20 miles away in Tacoma. Alex, I'll testify, she said. Victor's lies can't stand. She'd hidden Alara's birth, haunted by Eleanor's death, but my fight at the Haven's gala stirred her conscience. I drove to meet her at a diner off I-5, rain streaking my windshield. Evergreens flanking the road like silent allies. Her eyes, heavy with regret, met mine across a chip table, 10 feet from the counter's hum. I saw Eleanor suffer, she said, handing me clinic records Victor had buried. My heart surged. She wasn't just a witness. She was a beacon, risking her license to right her wrongs. If you found such an ally, would you trust their light? I clasped her hand, feeling Eleanor's presence in the cedar-scented air outside. Sharma's choice, like dawn over the Cascades, broke the dark. She'd stand with me in court, her truth a shield for Chloe, Mia, and Alara. Victor's shadow is rose cologne, his threats loomed, but Sharma's courage, 100 feet from Puget Sound's tides, reminded me I wasn't alone. For my girls, for justice, I'd carry her torch, a father no longer solitary in this storm. In my study, I met Sarah Jenkins, her legal files spread like a map. 12 miles from Seattle's courthouse. We listened to Eleanor's diary pages, read aloud by Chloe, Mia's voice steady. Mom knew, Mia said, 5 feet away, their trust binding us. Sharma joined. Sharing more, Victor's payments, his clinic's fraud. We planned. Her testimony, the diary, Cole's ledgers. Sarah's eyes gleamed. We'll nail him. I shared my fear. Victor's custody threat, his 80,000 social media followers spreading lies. Sharma touched my arm. We're stronger together. If you built such bonds, would you lean in? We strategized. Puget Sound's gulls crying outside. Their freedom ours to claim. Sarah drafted motions. Sharma prepared affidavits. I sent Cole to chase the clinic's owner, 30 miles south. My girls' laughter drifted, Alara's voice among them. A melody of hope. Trust grew, not just in them, but in me, a man who doubted his worth. The evergreens stood tall, their roots our foundation. This wasn't just a case, it was family, forged in truth. Ready to face Victor's storm with the strength I hadn't known I held. The world began to listen. A viral post, #ThorneTruth, 100,000 shares, spread Sharma's interview, taped 10 miles away by KOMO News. Strangers rallied, sharing Haven stories, their voices echoing from Bellingham, 90 miles north, to Olympia, 60 miles south. A teacher at Chloe's school, 8 miles east, apologized, offering support. Crowds gathered outside the courthouse, signs reading justice for Alara. Social media swelled, 120,000 followers now, retweeting Eleanor's diary excerpts. If you saw this wave, would you ride it? I stood with Sarah, Sharma, and Cole, rain falling like grace, cedar trees nodding. My girls, safe at home, inspired thousands, Lily, Ethan, others saved. The Seattle Times shifted, calling me a father's fight. Puget Sound's tides roared approval, 100 feet below, as I felt the community's pulse, a chorus for truth. Victor's lies faltered. Our story, like dawn's light, spread, uniting strangers in a cause I'd never dreamed would grow so vast. The Cascades stood watch, their peaks my resolve, as we rose together, a family, a community, unbroken under Puget Sound's radiant dawn. Victor struck back with a vengeance, his silver hair a storm cloud over Seattle's skyline, 15 miles from my Mercer Island refuge. His lawyers, in a courthouse 12 miles away, filed a motion to revoke my custody, claiming I'd brainwashed Alara. He flooded social media, now 150,000 followers, with a doctored video of me at the Haven, edited to show me abducting Lily and Ethan. The Seattle Times, swayed, ran a front-page story. Thorne's lies unravel. Protesters, hired by Victor, picketed my home. Their signs, Thorne's a fraud, stabbing like November rain. My board, fully his, announced Thorne Enterprises' new era under Victor, erasing my legacy. A new threat arrived, an anonymous email. Sent from 20 miles away, warning of accidents for Chloe and Mia at their Bellevue school, 8 miles east. If you faced such an onslaught, would you break? Puget Sound's waves, 100 feet below, roared defiance. But fear not, had I pushed Victor too far? Sarah Jenkins warned of a smear campaign. Cole's leads were blocked, and Sharma's testimony faced delays. Victor's rose cologne seemed to linger, his cigar smoke choking my hope. The evergreens outside trembled, mirroring my dread. He turned my truth into a noose, tightening around my girls, my name, my fight. Yet, Alara's drawing, 3 girls under his sun, anchored me. I wouldn't let his shadow win, not while my daughters breathed. I faced Victor in his downtown office, 12 miles from home. The city's pulse faint through tinted windows. In this, Alex, he sneered, rose cologne thick, cigar burning. I stood, 10 feet away, my phone recording secretly. Confess, Victor, I said. Voice steel, Eleanor's diary in my pocket. Alara, Eleanor, Rose, What did you do? His eyes narrowed, then he laughed, chilling. I hid Alara, dosed Eleanor. Silenced Rose, she wouldn't hand over the girl. My heart pounded, Puget Sound's distant tides urging me on. For money, I pressed. For power, he spat, detailing his fraud, the Haven's abuse. All for control. I kept calm, every word captured. If you stood here, would you tremble? He leaned closer, 5 feet now, unaware of my trap. I mentioned Sharma's testimony, his face twisted guilt, rage. Cole, outside, signaled Ramirez's FBI team, 100 feet below, ready. I stepped back, cedar-scented air clearing my mind. Victor's confession, like dawn over the Cascades, was mine. I'd outmaneuvered him, a father wielding truth as a blade, for Chloe, Mia, Alara, for justice. The office's glass walls reflected my resolve, unbreakable, under Puget Sound's relentless light. The truth broke free, a tide unstoppable. Ramirez stormed in, cuffs snapping on Victor, his silver hair disheveled, 15 miles from my safe haven. The recording aired on KOMO News, 10 miles away, shocking 200,000 viewers. Victor Thorne arrested. Headlines blazed. The Seattle Times retracting lies. Social media erupted. Hashtag ThorneTruth hit 300,000 shares. In court, Sharma testified. Eleanor's diary read aloud. Cole's ledgers shown. Victor faced charges: kidnapping, fraud, murder. The public, once divided, united, rallies swelling outside, 12 miles from Puget Sound's embrace. If you saw truth prevail, would you weep? I stood, Chloe, Mia, and Alara beside me, their hands in mine. Lily and Ethan, freed, smiled nearby. The evergreens stood tall, rain cleansing. As Seattle's skyline shone anew, Victor's empire fell, his rose-scented lies dust. My girls' laughter, like gulls over the Sound, was my victory. I'd fought not for glory, but for them. For a world where truth, like Puget Sound's endless waves, could not be buried, blooming eternal under dawn's radiant light. Victor's arrest should have freed me. But loss lingered like fog over Puget Sound, heavy and cold. In my Mercer Island home, 15 miles from Seattle's now quiet streets, I surveyed the wreckage. Thorne Enterprises, my life's work, was gutted. Victor's allies had fled, leaving debts and a tarnished name, headlines still echoing 20 miles away. Friends, once close, distanced themselves, their calls silent, 10 miles across the city. The legal fight drained my savings, legal fees piling like driftwood. My reputation, though stirring, was scarred. Hashtag ThorneTruth, at 350,000 shares, carried both praise and lingering doubts. If you won a war but lost your world, would you mourn? Chloe, Mia, and Alara were safe, their laughter my anchor, but I'd lost more than I'd imagined. Neighbors' glances, once hostile, now pitted, stung worse. I stood on my balcony, 100 feet above the Sound, waves whispering of costs I hadn't counted. Eleanor's diary, open on my desk, spoke of her love. But also my failures. Had I fought too hard, exposed my girls to danger? The evergreens swayed, their shadows long, asking if victory was worth this solitude. I'd saved Lily and Ethan, exposed the Haven, but my empire, my connections, lay in ruins. A father, yes, but a man adrift, questioning if truth's price had stripped me bare, leaving only echoes of who I'd been. I accepted the consequences, a bitter tide I'd swim. In my study, rain tapping cedar beams, I faced the truth. My old life was gone. No more boardrooms, no more Seattle skyline bending to my will. I cut social media, for 100,000 followers irrelevant, their noise a distraction. If you lost your name, would you let it go? I sold assets, 12 miles away, to cover debts, keeping only our home for Chloe, Mia, and Alara. The legal scars, custody battles, Croft's lies taught me resilience, not regret. Puget Sound's gulls cried, free in their flight, urging me to release ambition's weight. I wrote to Sarah Jenkins, thanking her, but declined her offer to reclaim Thorne Enterprises. That Alex was dead, buried with Victor's lies. I walked my girls to school, 8 miles east in Bellevue. Their hands in mine, their trust enough. The world might see a fallen billionaire, but I saw a father, standing alone yet whole. The Cascades loomed, eternal, reminding me life endures beyond loss. I'd paid for truth, and though it cost my empire, it gave me my daughters, a treasure no wealth could match. Rebuilding began quietly, like dawn over Puget Sound's gentle waves. I looked in the mirror, 5 feet from my desk, and saw not a tycoon, but a man carved by love. I started small, volunteering at a shelter 10 miles away, helping kids like Lily and Ethan. If you fell, would you rise anew? I journaled, Eleanor's diary beside mine, tracing my journey for my girls to read one day. I taught Chloe, Mia, and Alara to plant cedars in our yard. Their roots a promise of growth. My reputation stirred. KOMO News, 15 miles west, aired my story, 500,000 views, calling me a father's redemption. I didn't need the crown, only purpose. The evergreens stood tall, their scent grounding me. I was no longer Thorne Enterprises' king, but a man who'd fought for truth, for love. My girls' laughter, like sunlight through rain, shaped me. I'd build again, not for power, but for them, for a world where justice bloomed, rooted in the heart I'd reclaimed. In my Mercer Island home, 15 miles from Seattle's fading scars, DR. Olivia Hayes saw me, not the billionaire, not the crusader, but the father stitching a family from grief's threads. She arrived, her office 10 miles away in Bellevue, to counsel Alara, Chloe, Mia, Lily, and Ethan. In our living room, 5 feet from Alara's sunlit drawing, she watched me kneel, tying Mia's shoe, soothing Alara's fears. "You're their anchor, Alex," she said, her voice warm as cedar in sunlight. I'd bared my soul in her sessions, admitting doubts. Had I endangered my girls chasing truth? Her eyes, steady, saw past my losses, past Thorne Enterprises' ruin. To the man who'd fought for love, if someone saw your heart, would you let them? Outside, Puget Sound's waves lapped, 100 feet below, echoing her words. She joined us for dinner. The kids laughed her a melody and shared her own loss, a brother to betrayal. "You rebuilt, Alex," she said, 10 feet across the table. The evergreens swayed, their roots deep, mirroring my quiet pride. Olivia's belief, like dawn over the Cascades, showed me I wasn't just a survivor, I was enough, for Chloe, Mia, Alara, for the children I'd saved. Her gaze, free of judgment, was a mirror, reflecting a father, not a failure, grounded in love's unyielding soil. Forgiveness was a weight I hadn't known I carried. Alone in my study, rain tapping windows, I faced my guilt, ignoring Eleanor's pain, trusting Victor too long. "If you bore such shame, would you release it?" I wrote a letter to myself, 5 feet from Eleanor's diary, pardoning my blindness. "My grief. You did enough," I scrawled, tears falling. Then, Victor, his rose cologne, his cruelty, haunted me. I didn't forgive for him, but for me, to free my heart. I imagined his cell, 20 miles away, and let anger dissolve, like mist over Puget Sound. The girls deserved a father unburdened, not chained to hate. I spoke to Olivia, her office a haven, and she nodded. Healing starts here. Chloe, Mia, and Alara, playing nearby, were my wife, Lily, and Ethan, too, their smiles healing wounds. The cedars outside stood tall, their scent cleansing, urging me to let go. Forgiveness wasn't weakness. It was strength, a tide-eyed ride to peace. I burned the letter, its ashes scattered, a vow to live for love, not vengeance, for a future where my girls could thrive. Unbound by my past, we planted a cedar in our yard, 100 feet from Puget Sound's gentle roar, a symbol of our healing. Chloe, Mia, and Alara dug the soil, their hands muddy. Lily and Ethan giggling beside them. "If you rebuild a family, would you mark it so?" Olivia helped, her hands steady, 10 feet from the sapling. For Eleanor and Rose, I said, their names soft as rain. The tree, small but fierce, mirrored us, rooted, growing, alive. We watered it, the girls' laughter mingling with gulls' cries, the cascades watching eternal. Alara placed her drawing 3 girls. A sun, near its base, a promise kept. The act, simple yet profound, wove us tighter, our wounds softening like earth under spring. Social media, 600,000 views, shared our story. But this was ours, a family reborn. The cedar stood, its needles catching dawn, a testament to love's endurance, to a father and his daughters, healed by truth, rooted in Puget Sound's endless embrace. The storm had passed, leaving a quiet life bathed in Puget Sound's soft light. In our Mercer Island home, I woke each morning to brew coffee, the aroma mingling with cedar from the tree we'd planted. Chloe, Mia, and Alara bounded downstairs, their laughter a new dawn. joined by Lily and Ethan, now fostered with us. We walked to school, their chatter brighter than the Cascade snow. My days, once ruled by boardrooms, now held simplicity, reading with the kids, cooking dinners, watching gulls soar over the sound. If you found such peace, would you cherish it? I volunteered at a local shelter, my wealth gone but my heart full. Dr. Olivia Hayes' sessions wove us tighter, Alara's nightmares fading, her smile mirroring Eleanor's. The world's noise, once deafening, softened. Social media, at 700,000 followers, shared our healing, but I craved only this: my children, safe, whole. The evergreens outside stood sentinel, their whispers of resilience grounding me. I wasn't the billionaire anymore, nor needed to be. Seattle's skyline, once my throne, now watched from afar. A reminder of battles won. This life, raw and real, was enough, built on love, not power. Each sunrise, painting the sound gold, reminded me I'd survived, not for glory, but for Chloe, Mia, Alara, Lily, Ethan, a father rooted in hope's quiet soil. I turned my pain into purpose, founding the Eleanor and Rose Fund to aid neglected children. At a community center, I met kids like Alara, scared, forgotten, and offered shelter, education, care. If you could change a life, would you try? We opened a safe house, its walls echoing with laughter, funded by donations, 800,000 social media shares, amplifying our call. I spoke at schools, sharing our story, Eleanor's diary in hand, urging kids to seek help. Lily and Ethan, thriving, helped, their courage inspiring others. Dr. Sharma volunteered, her redemption a gift. Sarah Jenkins drafted policies, ensuring fairness. The fund wasn't just aid, it was love, a promise no child would face Victor's shadows. Puget Sound's tides, endless, mirrored our mission's reach. I visited the Haven's ruins, now a garden, cedars rising where pain once stood. Each child saved felt like saving Alara again, her sunlit drawing my guide. The community joined, teachers, neighbors, their hands planting hope. This wasn't my victory, it was ours, a tapestry of care woven from loss. Blooming under the Cascade's gaze, for Eleanor, for Rose, for every child who deserved light. I shared our journey, sparking a community's voice. At a Seattle rally, I spoke, 900,000 online viewers watching, urging others, tell your story. If you held such truth, would you share it? Posts flooded in. Hashtag Eleanor and Rose hit 1 million shares, tales of survival, betrayal, healing. A mother, inspired, exposed her abuser. A teen found a mentor. I read their words. Puget Sound's gulls crying in harmony, each story a ripple. We hosted forums, kids like Lily speaking, their bravery electric. The fund grew, donations pouring, a network from Bellingham to Olympia. KOMO News aired our work, calling it Hope's Revival. The cedars we'd planted thrived, their roots entwining our community. I stood with Chloe, Mia, Alara, Lily, Ethan, their hands in mine, feeling Eleanor's love, Rose's courage. This wasn't just healing, it was connection. A chorus of voices rising, unbroken, under dawn's gentle glow. Our story, like Puget Sound's waves, carried others forward, a call to live, love, and speak truth. Forever bound by hope's endless bloom, I returned to the Seattle warehouse, its rusted beams looming under a gray dawn, Puget Sound's salt air sharp in my lungs. This was where it began, my daughter's terror, Alara's courage, Victor's shadow. The splintered crates, oil-stained floors, echoed that night's fear, but I stood unafraid, a father remade. If you revisited your pain, would you flinch? I traced the path we'd fled, Chloe, Mia, Alara's hands once in mine, now safe at home. The warehouse, a husk of Victor's cruelty, held no power. I saw Eleanor's face in the mist, her diary's words, protect them, my guide. The Haven's ruins, reborn as a garden, had taught me renewal. This place could, too. Gulls wheeled above, their cries softer now, urging peace. I knelt, touching the cold floor where Alara had freed us, her strength a spark that lit my fight. The Cascades watched, eternal, as I let the pain breathe. Not to haunt, but to heal. This wasn't just a return, it was a reclaiming, for my girls, for me. The evergreens beyond whispered, their roots deep, grounding my resolve. I'd faced betrayal here, but also found Alara, my daughter, my truth. The warehouse, once a cage, was now a marker of how far I'd come, bathed in Puget Sound's quiet light. I spoke to Victor's ghost, his silver hair and rose cologne vivid in memory, standing where we'd fought. "You broke us, Victor," I said, voice steady, the air still. "If you faced your betrayer, what would you say?" I didn't seek his prison, his chains enough, but needed this dialogue to close the wound. "You took Eleanor, hid Alara, killed Rose, for what? Power." His confession, recorded that night, replayed in my mind, his voice cold. I saw our childhood, brothers laughing under cedars, before greed twisted him. "I hated you," I admitted. Puget Sounds waves a soft chorus, "but I'm free now." Forgiveness, born here, wasn't for him. It was mine, a tide washing clean. I spoke of Chloe, Mia, Alara, Lily, Ethan, thriving despite his shadow. "You lost, Victor," I said, evergreens nodding. "Not because I won, but because love did. Eleanor's strength, Rose's sacrifice, lived in my girls. This wasn't vengeance, it was closure, a father speaking truth to a memory, reclaiming peace." The cascade's silhouette held me, urging release. I turned away, the warehouse fading, Victor's ghost dissolving in dawn's glow, my heart light, ready for tomorrow. We both changed, though worlds apart. Victor, stripped of power, was a shadow of the brother I'd known, his greed his cage. I saw it in his confessions falter, a crack of regret, though never spoken. "If you saw change, would you not?" I'd grown, too, not the billionaire, but a father, rooted in love, not ambition. In my Mercer Island study, I read Eleanor's diary. Her fears of Victor now a distant echo. Our childhood cedars, where we'd played, stood in memory, their scent tying us to who we'd been. I didn't need his apology, my girl's laughter. Puget Sound's gentle lap was enough. Victor's fall, my rise, weren't triumphs over each other, but truths laid bare. The evergreens outside my home, thriving, mirrored my peace. I'd fought for Chloe, Mia, Alara, for Lily, Ethan, for the Eleanor and Rose Fund, not to defeat him, but to live. We'd both faced our hearts, he in chains, I in freedom. A quiet nod to that shared past. Under dawn's soft light, closed the chapter, leaving only love's enduring bloom, carried by Puget Sound's endless song. I stood in my Mercer Island study, Puget Sound's dawn painting the cedars gold, and recorded my story. My hands trembled, but Chloe, Mia, and Alara's laughter, echoing from the kitchen, steadied me. The video, posted online, began. "I'm Alex Thorne, a father who fought for truth." I spoke of the warehouse, Victor's betrayal, Eleanor's loss, and Alara's courage, my voice raw. "If you shared your scars, would the world listen?" I detailed the Haven's horrors, Lily and Ethan's rescue, and the Eleanor and Rose Fund, urging viewers to act. The clip, aired by KOMO News, exploded, 2 million views, hashtag Eleanor and Rose trending. I spoke at a Seattle community center, the crowd's eyes mirroring my hope. Social media swelled, 3 million shares as strangers posted, "Your fight saved my sister." The evergreens outside my window nodded, their scent grounding me. I wasn't the billionaire anymore, but a voice, raw and real, for the forgotten. Puget Sound's waves sang, amplifying each word. I shared Eleanor's diary pages, her fears now a beacon. My girls watched, Alara's hand in mine, their pride my strength. This wasn't fame. It was purpose, a father's tale woven into countless lives, sparking light under the cascade's eternal gaze. Carried by dawn's gentle breath, my words ignited change like wildfire through dry cedars. The Eleanor and Rose Fund grew, safe houses sprouting from Tacoma to Bellingham. Shelters for kids like Alara. If you sparked a movement, would you fuel it? Schools adopted our talks, teaching kids to speak against abuse. A senator, moved by my video, pushed child welfare laws. Citing our story, social media, for million followers now, shared victories. A teen reunited with family, a shelter funded by donations. I met survivors, their hands clasping mine, saying, "You gave me courage." The Haven's garden, once a ruin, bloomed, kids planting roses for Eleanor, cedars for Rose. Puget Sound's tides, ceaseless, mirrored our momentum. I spoke at rallies, Dr. Sharma and Sarah Jenkins beside me, our voices a chorus. The community shifted, neighbors who'd shunned us now volunteered. KOMO News called it Seattle's awakening. The Cascades stood watch, their snow a promise of renewal. My girls, Chloe, Mia, Alara, Lily, Ethan joined, their laughter a spark for others. This wasn't just my fight. It was theirs, ours. A society learning to shield its most fragile, rooted in love's unyielding earth. I sowed hope, a seed for every heart. In my video's end, I said, if you've fallen, rise, your story matters. If you inspired one soul, would it be enough? Viewers responded, 5 million shares, posting tales of survival, each a light. A girl wrote, I left my abuser, thanks to you. I read them. Puget Sound's goals soaring, each word a ripple. The fund hosted forums, kids like Lily speaking, their courage viral. We planted cedars at every safe house, symbols of strength. Social media buzzed. 6 million followers, hashtags uniting strangers. I stood with my girls, their hands in mine. Eleanor's diary open, Rose's memory alive. The evergreens whispered, their roots entwining us all. Hope wasn't just mine. It was theirs, a world's, blooming under dawn's glow. My legacy, like Puget Sound's endless waves, wasn't wealth, but this, a call to stand, to love, to heal. For anyone who dared to dream beyond their scars. I stood on my Mercer Island porch, Puget Sound's dawn weaving gold through cedars, and felt no regret for the path I'd walked. The warehouse. Victor's betrayal, Eleanor's loss, each scar was a choice I'd make again. If you faced such trials, would you choose them? Chloe, Mia, and Alara's laughter, joined by Lily and Ethan, filled our home. A symphony of love earned through fire. The Eleanor and Rose Fund, thriving, saved countless children, their smiles my reward. I'd lost Thorne Enterprises' crown, but gained truth. A father's heart unbroken. The Seattle skyline, once my battlefield, now stood quiet, its glow soft. I'd faced fear, doubt, Victor's rose-scented lies, and emerged not as a billionaire, but as a man who fought for his daughters. The evergreens swayed, their whispers affirming my resolve. Social media, 7 million shares of hashtag Eleanor and Rose, carried our story, but my peace was here. In morning coffee, in Alara's hand in mine. Eleanor's diary, its pages worn, spoke of her love, guiding me still. The Cascades loomed, eternal, witnessing my journey's worth. I'd chosen truth over power, love over vengeance, and stood taller for it. This path, jagged yet true, led to my girls, to hope, to a life I'd walk again, under Puget Sound's endless sky. The pain, once a blade, became my teacher, its lessons carved deep. In my study, rain tapping windows, I traced each wound, Eleanor's death, Victor's cruelty, the Haven's horse. If pain shaped you, would you thank it? It taught me to see Alara's courage, to hear Chloe and Mia's trust, to build the Eleanor and Rose Fund from ashes. Losing my empire showed me wealth's fragility, but love's endurance. Victor's betrayal, his cigar smoke sting, revealed my own strength, a father who rose despite fear. Puget Sound's tides, relentless, mirrored pain's persistence, but also its gift, clarity. I grieved Eleanor, but her memory, inked in her diary, fueled my fight. The warehouse's terror birthed my resolve. The Haven's children, like Lily and Ethan, gave me purpose. The cedars outside, rooted through storms, stood as my kin. Pain stripped me bare, but rebuilt me flawed, yet whole, a man who loved fiercely. Social media, 8 million views, shared this truth, but my gratitude was quiet for each tear, each fall that led to this dawn where my girls' laughter bloomed, a harvest from sorrow's soil. My journey's end wasn't victory, but freedom from my own chains. I didn't defeat anyone, I said, filming a final video, Puget Sound's goals soaring behind me. I just stopped losing myself. If you found such truth, would you speak it? This was my legacy, not wealth, but love for Chloe, Mia, Alara, Lily, Ethan, for every child the Eleanor and Rose Fund lifted. The cedars we'd planted thrived, their needles catching dawn, a promise kept. I'd rebuilt Thorne Enterprises, small but honest, its heart ethical, for my girl's future. Social media, 9 million shares, echoed my words. But my voice was for those still in shadow. Stand, love, heal. I urged, Eleanor's diary in hand, Rose's courage in my heart. The Cascades watched, Puget Sound's waves a gentle hymn. I was no hero, just a father who walked through fire, finding light. My story, like sunlight through rain, was theirs now, a call to rise, to root deep, to live unbound. I closed the camera. My girl's arms around me and smiled, free, under dawn's eternal bloom. In my Mercer Island study, Puget Sound's dawn casting shadows through cedars, I wrote to the Alex of years past. A man lost in grief's fog. Dear Alex, I began, pen trembling, you thought you'd failed when Eleanor died. If you could speak to your old self, what would you say? I saw him broken, hiding tears. Fearing for Chloe and Mia, blind to Alara's existence. You weren't weak, I wrote. You were human, carrying love through pain. The warehouse's terror, Victor's betrayal. The Haven's horrors, he faced them, unaware of his strength. I told him of Alara's courage, the Eleanor and Rose Fund, the children saved, Lily, Ethan, countless others. You built this, I said. Rain tapping the window, a gentle echo. Eleanor's diary, open beside me, whispered her faith in me. The evergreens outside stood tall, their roots my anchor. I forgave that Alex his doubts, his silence, for he led me here, to this dawn where my girls thrived. Social media, 10 million shares, carried our story, but this letter was for him, a father who stumbled yet rose. Puget Sound's waves, soft, urged compassion. I sealed the words, not to send, but to hold, a bridge to the man who'd fought blindly, now seen, loved, under the Cascade's quiet gaze. I once despised my vulnerability, a crack in the billionaire's armor. In Seattle's boardrooms, I buried it, fearing Victor's taunts. You're weak, Alex. If you hated a trait, could you embrace it? Now, in my home, I saw its truth. My tears, shed for Eleanor, fueled my fight for Alara. My fear, raw in the warehouse, bound me to Chloe and Mia's trust. Vulnerability let me hear Lily and Ethan's pain, birthing the Eleanor and Rose Fund. I stood on my porch, cedars swaying, Puget Sound's tides a steady him, and thanked that softness. It wasn't failure. It was my pulse, letting me feel Victor's betrayal, Eleanor's loss, and still rise. The Cascades, snow-capped, stood firm, like my newfound pride. Social media, 11 million views. Praised my strength, but I cherished the trembling heart that dared to break. Dr. Olivia Hayes taught me this, to love my doubts, my fears, as roots of courage. My girl's laughter, spilling from the kitchen, was born of that openness. I'd hidden it once, but now, under dawn's glow, I held it close, a father whole, not despite. But because of the fragility that wove my love's enduring thread, I embraced my whole self, flaws and all, under Puget Sound's gentle light. In my study, mirror reflecting a face etched by trials, I saw not just a father, but a man, scarred, yet standing. If you faced your reflection, would you smile? The billionaire was gone, but the Alex who loved Chloe, Mia, Alara, Lily, Ethan remained. Stronger for his cracks. I doubted, feared, faltered, yet built the Eleanor and Rose Fund, rebuilt Thorne Enterprises, small but true. The cedars outside, thriving, mirrored my acceptance. No part of me was shameful. Eleanor's diary, its pages soft, held my failures and her love, both mine to claim. Social media, 12 million shares, called me a hero, but I was simply me, flawed, fierce, alive. I walked with my girls, their hands in mine, and felt no need to hide. The Cascades watched, Puget Sound's goals soaring, as I owned every step, every tear, every triumph. This wasn't perfection, it was wholeness, a father rooted in truth, love, and the courage to be. My heart, once fractured, now bloomed, a tapestry of pain and joy, complete under dawn's eternal embrace. In my Mercer Island study, Puget Sound's dawn filtering through cedars, I wrote to Victor, the brother who'd shattered my world. Victor, I began, pen heavy. Your betrayal cut deepest. If you faced your enemy, what would you confess? I saw his silver hair, his rose cologne sting, his cigar smoke curling as he hit Alara, killed Eleanor. Silenced Grandma Rose. I hated you, I wrote, listing each wound, the warehouse's terror, the Haven's children, my daughter's fear. His greed stole my wife, my empire, yet I poured out the pain. Raw and unfiltered. Eleanor's diary, beside me, held her love, urging truth. You were my brother once, I continued, recalling our childhood, running under Seattle's evergreens. Before power twisted you. If I held this grudge, it'd chain me, not you. My girls, Chloe, Mia, Alara, Lily, Ethan, deserved a father free, not tethered to rage. The cascades loomed, silent witnesses. As I wrote, your shadow shaped me, but I won't carry it. Puget Sound's waves, soft, echoed my resolve. The Eleanor and Rose Fund, saving children, was my answer to your darkness. I didn't write for your redemption, but mine, a father unburdening his heart, letting resentment spill like rain, cleansing under dawn's gentle glow. Releasing resentment was like shedding stone. I sat, letter in hand, Puget Sound's tides a quiet him, and felt its weight, years of anger, Victor's smirk, his threats. If you held such pain, could you let it go? I didn't absolve him. I freed myself. His cell, far from my home, held him, but my heart was mine. I thought of Chloe, Mia, Alara, their laughter a beacon, and knew resentment would dim their light. Dr. Olivia Hayes' words echoed, forgive for you, Alex. I visualized Victor's face, his rose-scented cruelty, and let it fade, like mist over the cascades. The Eleanor and Rose Fund, thriving, was my defiance, not his defeat. Social media, 13 million shares, spread our hope, not his hate. The evergreens outside stood firm, their roots my strength. I didn't need Victor's remorse. Eleanor's love, Rose's sacrifice, lived in my girls. Releasing him wasn't weakness, it was power, a father choosing peace over poison. Puget Sound's gulls soared, free. As I exhaled, the anger dissolving, leaving only love, clear as dawn. This act, quiet yet vast, was for me, for my children, for a heart no longer bound by a shadow's grip. I let go. Burning the letter under Puget Sound's morning sky. The flames danced, cedar smoke rising. As I stood in our yard, Chloe, Mia, and Alara watching. If you sought freedom, would you burn the past? The ashes, scattered by wind, carried Victor's hold away, like leaves on the cascade slopes. I forgave, not for him, but for the man I'd become, a father, not a victim. The cedar we'd planted, thriving, stood witness, its needles catching dawn. Social media, 14 million views, shared our story, but this was ours, a ritual of release. I held my girls, their warmth my anchor. Lily and Ethan joining, their smiles healing. Eleanor's diary, safe inside, spoke of love, not vengeance. Rose's courage lived in Alara. The evergreens whispered, Puget Sound's waves a gentle chorus. As I stepped forward, unburdened, forgiveness was my flight, a father soaring free, rooted in truth. The act, simple yet profound, was a vow to live for my children, the Eleanor and Rose Fund, for a world where love outshone hate, blooming eternal under dawn's radiant embrace. I sat by Puget Sound's edge, dawn's light weaving through cedars, and let silence hold me. No words, just the waves' gentle lap, gulls gliding above, the cascade's silhouette steady. My heart, once racing through the warehouse's terror, now rested, Chloe, Mia, Alara, Lily, and Ethan safe at home. If you paused in stillness, what would you feel? The evergreens whispered, their scent mingling with salt air, grounding me. I thought of Eleanor, her diary's love, and Grandma Rose. Her sacrifice, both alive in the Eleanor and Rose Fund. Victor's shadow, his rose cologne's sting, was gone, burned away in forgiveness. The Haven's children, freed, danced in my mind. Their laughter a quiet echo. I breathed deep, Puget Sound's rhythm my pulse, each wave a memory, of fear, fight, healing. The cedars stood tall, rooted like my resolve, their needles catching dawn's glow. This moment, wordless, was sacred, a father's heart open, no longer chasing, but being. Social media, 15 million shares, carried our story, but here, by the water, I was just Alex, whole, at peace. The cascades watched, eternal, as silence wove my past into now, a tapestry of love, loss, and light, blooming soft under morning's tender embrace. I turned to the camera, Puget Sound's waves behind me, and spoke to you. If you're in darkness, I see you, I said, voice steady, Chloe, Mia, and Alara's faces in my heart. If you could reach one's soul, would you try? I was a father broken by loss, betrayed by my brother, but I found Alara, fought for truth, built the Eleanor and Rose Fund. I shared the warehouse's fear. Victor's confession, the Haven's redemption, each word raw. You're not alone, I urged, evergreens nodding, dawn's light warm. Social media, 16 million views, amplified my call. But this was personal. Eleanor's love, Rose's courage, my girl's trust, offered to you. Your pain is purpose, I said. Puget Sound's tides a chorus. Whether it's betrayal or grief, you can rise. The cascade stood firm, a promise of strength. I spoke of Lily, Ethan, children saved, and the fund's safe houses, thriving from Tacoma to Bellingham. I'm here, waiting, I finished. I was meeting yours through the lens, a father, not a hero, sharing hope. This wasn't just my story, it was ours, a bridge of light, woven under dawn's gentle sky. I invited you to speak. To let your story breathe. Share your journey, I said, camera rolling, Puget Sound's goals soaring. Your truth could save someone. If you inspired another, would it matter? I asked for your scars. Your triumphs, under hashtag Eleanor and Rose, now 17 million shares. A girl escaped abuse because of you. I read, tears falling, the cascades watching. Your words flooded in mothers, teens. Survivors, each a ripple, like waves on the sound. The Eleanor and Rose Fund grew. Your story's its heart, safe houses blooming, kids like Alara finding home. I stood with Chloe, Mia, Alara, Lily, Ethan. Their hands in mine, cedars thriving around us. Tell me your fight, I urged, dawn's glow soft. Let it light another's path. Social media buzzed, 18 million followers, a chorus of voices. From Seattle to beyond, the evergreens whispered, Puget Sound's tides endless, as your truths wove a community, unbroken, alive. My legacy, our legacy, was this, a world where stories, like cedars, rooted deep, bloomed eternal under hope's radiant dawn. I stood by Puget Sound, dawn's glow warming the cedars, and faced the camera, heart full. Thank you, I said, voice steady, for walking this path with me. If you owed the world gratitude, would you speak it? You million strong, 19 million shares of hashtag Eleanor and Rose heard my story. From the warehouse's terror to Victor's fall, Eleanor's loss to Alara's light. Your voices, from Seattle to beyond, lifted Chloe, Mia, Alara, Lily, Ethan, and the Eleanor and Rose Fund's children. Comments, shares, donations, you built safe houses, gave hope. I saw your posts, a mother's escape, a teen's courage, each a cedar sprouting under the cascade's gaze. Puget Sound's waves, soft, carried your strength, weaving it into mine. Eleanor's diary, Rose's sacrifice, lived through your support, a chorus of compassion. My girl's laughter, ringing from our Mercer Island home, was yours, too, a shared triumph. The evergreens stood tall, their scent my thanks, rooted in your belief. You didn't just watch, you acted, amplifying truth, love, healing. KOMO News, airing our journey. Called you Hope's Army. I bowed to you, a father humbled, not alone, but bound by your hearts, thriving under dawn's radiant bloom, forever grateful for your light. I promised a future rooted in love, not fear. I'll keep fighting, I vowed. Puget Sound's tides a gentle hymn, for my girls, for the fund, for you. If you saw tomorrow, would you pledge it? Chloe, Mia, Alara, Lily, Ethan, they'd grow in a world I'd shape. Ethical, kind. The Eleanor and Rose Fund would expand, from Tacoma to Bellingham, more children saved, their laughter my guide. I'd rebuild Thorne Enterprises, small but true, a legacy for my daughters, not wealth, but justice. Social media, 20 million followers, would carry this promise, but my heart was here. With cedars swaying, dawn's glow soft. Eleanor's love, inked in her diary, urged me forward. Rose's courage, in Alara's eyes, steeled me. The cascade stood eternal, a vow of endurance. I'd face unknowns, but fear no longer ruled. Love did, for my children, for the forgotten. Dr. Sharma, Sarah Jenkins, Olivia Hayes, they joined me, a family beyond blood. Puget Sound's goals soared. Free, as I pledged to live boldly, a father, a voice, building hope's roots, deep and unbroken, under dawn's endless sky. I called you to act, to weave your story into the world. Don't hide your truth, I urged, camera rolling, Puget Sound's waves behind me. Share it. Help one soul, plant one cedar. If you could change a life, would you? Your stories, hashtag Eleanor and Rose. 21 million shares lit paths for others. Speak, write, act, I said, for kids like Alara, for hearts like yours. The Eleanor and Rose Fund waits, ready for your hands, your hope. The evergreens whispered, their roots entwining us, a community boundless. Puget Sound's light, soft, was yours to carry, a spark for tomorrow. My girls, Chloe, Mia, Alara, stood beside me. Their smiles a call. The cascades watched, dawn's glow eternal, as I left the ending open. What's your story? Your truth, like mine, could bloom, a world remade by love, courage, compassion. Social media buzzed, 22 million voices, but yours, singular, mattered. Step forward, I said, and let hope rise, like cedars under Puget Sound's endless dawn.